You guys see what I mean. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I think it's a good time for me to kind of share my list with you guys as far as some of the things that I saw that Trump has been able to do since he's been in office. You guys tell me where you agree, where you disagree, and we'll go from there. So let me remove this from the screen real quick. Let me make sure I got my list. All right, so we're just gonna go down. This is in no particular order, anything. So since Trump's been elected, here are the things that stood out to me. Ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and Palestine, Hamas, ceasefire in Gaza. Now, a lot of people would say that, well, that happened with Joe Biden as president. I'm pretty sure that, now, remember, I said since Trump's been elected. Now, even Joe Biden's team came out and congratulated the opposition. And when I say the op, I'm talking about Donald Trump and how Donald Trump was instrumental in bringing about that Gaza ceasefire. So shout out to Joe Biden for that. But I think if we're being honest, I would probably give Trump more credit for that. And the fact that Biden's team is giving Trump a lot of credit for it, to me, says that that's something that Trump had an impact on. Significant one. So the Gaza ceasefire. Number two, I had this: Ukraine and Russia now open to peace talks. Seems a little bit different. It seemed almost as if the Democrats, in a lot of ways, were encouraging that war to continue going on. Just from my standpoint, maybe I'm wrong, but Ukraine and Russia now open to peace talks. If going back to Jablowski's comment, if Trump is able to actually bring about some sort of ceasefire there, then we can give it the final check. But just them being open to it, that's what he's accomplished so far. Mexico is putting 10,000 border agents to protect us from illegal migrants and fentanyl. Now, a lot of people have said, well, Mexico already had people at the border. I don't know if this is in addition to what they already had. And this was the situation where Trump was leveraging the tariffs in order to get Mexico to start applying some pressure and to work with us as far as allowing migrants to come over through the Mexican border into America and allowing a lot of the fentanyl to come through. Now, most of the fentanyl came through Mexico, but that was also on a smaller issue in Canada as well. And I didn't even have Canada on the list, but maybe I should also add Canada, with now Canada implementing certain things that they were already supposed to implement in order to make the border stronger. But Donald Trump was able to leverage a lot of the tariffs, talk to Trudeau, and now have them on board with, I guess, what Trump feels comfortable to have a stronger border and not only stop allowing the fentanyl, which was much smaller than what was coming in through Mexico, but obviously a lot of the migrants coming in illegally. The next one that I have, one of the smartest people in the world is looking into our terrible government spending by both Republicans and Democrats and uncovering some wild stuff that we didn't know that we were spending our money on. Let me say that again. One of the smartest people in the world. Yes, I'm talking about Elon Musk. A lot of people have pushed back against this, but when you look at it, who would you rather be in a position to take a look at the business of America and the fact that we're $34 trillion in debt? Who would you prefer to look in that? So I don't even want to get into the whole, we went off on a tangent on this last week. I just want to put it out there. He was able to put Elon Musk. Oh man, hold on. This is why you got to have two cameras. This is why you got to have two cameras. So we're going to switch cameras. So he was able to put Elon Musk in a position to where now Elon Musk, who's one of the geniuses that we have in our world, the same thing that he was able to do with Twitter, and we actually may take a look at what he was able to do with X, I should say, or turning Twitter into X and making it run a lot more efficiently in a lot of different ways. Now he's looking into the government and having the government run a lot more efficiently and calling out a lot of the BS that we've seen getting spent, whether it's paying for condoms for this country or this transgender comic book or something crazy like that, or paying to push these woke ideologies across the country. We see that Elon Musk has come in and he's brought his team. I know a lot of people are mad that he's bringing some young folk in, but he's brought his team and now they are actually going through and creating a more efficient government that hopefully will save us Americans money and tax dollars. And it also will expose how a lot of our politicians have been using our money in ways that we're not necessarily aware of. All right, so let me get back to the list. All right, so then we have illegal migrants are being deported from cities that were already in poverty and suffering. Illegal migrants are being deported from cities like, let's say, Chicago, New York City, the Bronx in particular. A lot of these cities that already were suffering, that had populations of people suffering in poverty, Board of Education in these cities failing the families, failing the students, all of these things occurring, and now you decide to put illegal migrants, an overwhelmingly amount, into those cities where obviously the infrastructure just can't handle it. So now what is Trump doing? He's deporting a lot of these migrants, which is obviously going to help a lot of Americans, American citizens who should be prioritized, in my opinion. I feel bad that a lot of the people who came over that now have to go back because they probably, it takes a lot to go to another country. I can only assume. I've never done that. So I respect the fact that they chased a better opportunity somewhere else. However, it just being honest, it can't come at the expense of harming American citizens and the opportunities that we have. I feel bad that they were incentivized to come here and incentivized by a lot of these politicians on the Democratic side that, in my opinion, only did it because of selfish reasons, their own political interests to create more and more supporters from them eventually down the line when a lot of these people that come here have kids with birthright. We already know all that stuff. But I think that it needed to be done with a lot of these people because the infrastructure can't handle them. They have to go back. They have to go back. You can't bring a bunch of let me not say that. You can't bring a bunch of non-family members. And I was going to say, if you have a house, let's say you have a couple dogs, you can't bring 20 different stray dogs in. And I'm saying, just to be clear, I'm not calling migrants dogs. I was calling both dogs in the situation. If you already have dogs, if there's already dogs there, let's use people. If you already have kids, you already have 2 kids, you can't bring a bunch of, like, let's say foster kids into your household if you're not even taking care of the 2 kids that you have right now in your household. So hopefully you guys understand that. Hopefully nobody's offended. Let's keep going. Boys are no longer able to play sports against women. The fact that we even have to say that is pretty wild. But another thing that Trump was able to sign. The Army recruiting, this is one of the biggest ones for me. And this is the one that I had to Google just to make sure that I was actually accurate with. Army recruiting hit some all-time highs. I believe in December, right after Donald Trump became elected, December hit an all-time high as far as recruits joining the military. So obviously that's something big. When we look at our numbers, and we looked at it a few shows, I'm not going to say a few shows back, but maybe a few months ago, maybe even before that, where we looked at comparing the number of people in our military compared to like North Korea, compared to China, compared to Russia, compared to all these different areas with strong military backings and strong military support. And our military may not be as big or strong as you guys, or it was smaller than I thought. And a lot of these other countries have way bigger militaries than us. Their armies are just much bigger. So the fact that you got Trump coming in and he's bringing in a guy like Pete Hegseth, and it's clearly the camaraderie of the country. People are feeling good. People are enlisting in the army. That's a positive thing, especially when we realize how many of these different altercations, problems that we're throwing ourselves in across the world. It may make sense for us to have a military that's growing at a rate that we need it to grow at. So that was another plus for me. The next one is declassified JFK, RFK, and MLK docs. Now, I haven't seen any of them yet, but apparently Trump declassified them. I know we heard something about the families being able to take a look at them first, but if he's able to declassify those, or if he already did declassify them and we are able to somehow have access to them, I think it's going to tell a very interesting story about our country, about our politicians and about things that they've done. And at the very least, I think what it'll do is it'll wake us up to understand that we cannot just put our politicians on this pedestal. We cannot look at them as if they have the just highest moral compass and principles as we a lot of times do. What they say, we trust them. If they're on our team, we just believe everything that they're saying, even though it may not align with what actually makes sense in reality. We'll just take their word for it. So I think when those things are declassified and we can see some of maybe the crazy things that our government is doing or that our government was behind that we weren't necessarily sure of, I think that that's going to wake up some people. So I'm happy about that. Maybe y'all look at that as a negative. I don't know. The next one was putting tariffs on other countries to incentivize people to do more business in America and to boost our economy. And I wrote that I also see prices going up, though. So that was putting tariffs on other countries. That's what we just talked about in the other video. I don't want to, go into that too much, but putting tariffs on other countries, which will incentivize, and putting tariffs on our American businesses to not take American businesses and put their factories in other countries so they can hire cheap labor. You got to create those opportunities for America. I saw that as a positive. Maybe y'all won't. Shutting down DEI programs that benefit white women and gay white men more than blacks, even though blacks are frontlining the fight. I don't need to elaborate on that one. Made government employees come to work and come into the office because, let's just be honest, I think the number was, I think it was like around 10% of I want to say 8, but let's just say 10% of federal employees were actually reporting to the office. We know that when you report to the office, you get more work done. Just being at home, you're not going to be as productive, even though you may be, of course, because you're different and you're special, but the majority of people just aren't. So either come to work or trim down that government. Either come to work or trim down the government. And that was the next one that I had, where he's trimmed down the government significantly just based on forcing people to either show up at work or here's a tremendous severance package. We're going to pay you for the next 8 months, but after that, you're gone. I think that's going to help us out as much because who pays for their salaries? Our tax dollars. So the next one was nominated RFK Jr., one of the only people that has demonstrated he'll fight for the people against Big Pharma. Not going to get into that too much, but I think RFK Jr. is going to be and has been the person that is willing to frontline this fight against the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, as well as Big Pharma in order to fight for the overall health and well-being of the American citizens. Y'all may not agree, but check out his past, check out his history. It's all there. The last thing that I wrote was brought things back to 2 genders. It's another one of those things which is pretty wild, the fact that we even have to say it, but it is what it is. So that's where I've seen Donald Trump and the impact that has come with him being elected. Maybe you all see it a little bit differently. You tell me. That's how I currently see it. And when I compare those things that I just listed that he's been able to do since being elected, and then when I think about, because I challenged myself to create a list for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris of the things that they were able to do in their 4 years, and I couldn't really think of many positives or things that I would deem as positive. Maybe there's some things that you all would deem as positive, totally fine. But the things that I saw as positive, I didn't see it. And good morning, Meryl Smith. And please make sure that you like. That's going to help boost the algorithm. So those are the things that I looked at. And even when I looked at Barack Obama, just off as I was saying it on the show earlier, when I think about Barack Obama, because I didn't really look into his as much as I looked into Biden's and Kamala Harris's. But when you look at what Barack did, like what did Barack Obama do? Barack Obama was the first one that introduced all of these woke ideologies, the first one that was pushing this LGBTQ movement, not the people. I have to be very clear that I separate the movement from the people. But Barack Obama was the first one pushing a lot of these things. Now, the economy, I would say that Barack had a pretty solid economy. I'm not sure getting into the weeds of all that, but when you actually look at the overall impact, in my opinion, I think that, Trump's has been pretty significant thus far, especially when you compare it to the lackluster approach or the lackluster, I should say, achievements that Biden was able to accomplish. Shout out to my brother Mersh in the building. Shout out to my brother Skeeg. Ski, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist. This is my conspiracy brother. So if y'all hear me saying a conspiracy theory on here, there's a huge chance that I got it from my bro Mersh. All right, so we're gonna move on. We are gonna move on to